Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagnes. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scott, how goes it?
Hey, going pretty good.
Very nice. Just a reminder to all listeners, please like and subscribe to the podcast. It helps. Review it if you can. Scott, our first topic for the week. It's a follow-up from last week. Scott, if you guys remember, got himself a K-Box from a company called Eccentrics, correct?
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay. And Scott had literally just unpacked it. We kind of took a look at it. And now Scott has been able to play with it for a week. Scott, what are your findings so far with this K-Box equipment?
Pretty interesting, pretty versatile. It only takes a couple minutes to just pull it out, throw a flywheel on, attach a harness or bar to it, and get after it. So that's pretty cool. And that's like, basically it's like having an instantly available set of weights, anything from a light warm-up weight all the way to a maximal strength type weight all in one go, outside of possibly changing a flywheel. But even there, you don't even have to do that, really. It works certainly better for some exercises than others, and has definitely a different feel than standard free weights. Kind of that very strong and immediate eccentric pull down, and then the strong reversal at the bottom of the movement. So for someone who maybe is having trouble visualizing this, it's a little bit like the bottom of a kettlebell swing, because of you're swinging the weight. That's the end of a pendulum. That's your arms and hips. The force that it exerts, say you're swinging a 53, right? It's more than 53 pounds at the bottom of the movement when you reverse it. And then at some points, it's essentially weightless, right? You can relax your grip and the bell is floating. This is a little bit like that. There is no phase you can relax. As one big difference. You got to hang on for dear life in all parts of the movement. But at the bottom, how the reversal strength goes up is similar to swinging a kettlebell. It pulls back down on you immediately. So if you're expecting, you like to squat or deadlift and take a momentary pause at the lockout position, forget that notion. It's not happening. The K-Box is immediately starting you on your next rep, like it or not.
Wow. Okay, cool.
I used it for a variety of things. One of the things that I like it for is that first lateral development of strength. There's an angled plate that goes onto it. It just attaches with a couple pins. It's an attachment you get with it. And then you can attach the waist belt to the pulley, and you can do truly lateral squats on this thing to whatever depth that you can handle. And they're explode. It's just like what cutting and change of direction is in the real world, right? You have to decelerate your mass, which, because you have some speed and momentum, is greater than your mass. You have to stop it isometrically for a split second, and then you have to reverse it very quickly. So you can actually get into that posture and load that. In a way that I can't see how you could possibly do with any sort of barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, band, cable, normally. So that's pretty cool for sure. There's some other exercises, seemed a little weird. I tried to do a set of bent over rows, and you can definitely get a good contraction through the upper back. So that is definitely possible. However, as I mentioned, that the massive amount of turnaround at the bottom of the movement, man, a common criticism is barbell rowing is that it overloads the posterior chain a bit much, particularly if someone is already doing a lot of posterior chain training in addition. Well, this magnifies the load at that bottom point, that reversal. So I could see that being a drawback to doing bent rows on it. For me, not too bad, because I'm only doing a few sets of deadlifts per week, and my back can probably handle a little extra work there. But I think in most trainees, it might not be a great option in that case. For that particular movement.
Any applications that you haven't gotten to try yet, Scott, that you maybe plan on doing?
Also, as I mentioned last week, I have a strained or slightly torn meniscus in a knee, so I have not been able to do squatting properly. I mean, I've done lightly loaded ones on it by just putting a small amount of force. I've had some clients squat. I have one client who's about 6 months pregnant, and it's kind of hard to load, things traditionally now. And we did the belt squats, which actually worked pretty good outside of a small learning curve there. We did some calf raises. I've done calf raises with folks on it.
Oh,
That makes a
nice.
really nice stimulus. You put a little block in there,
Yeah.
and it feels like a rather natural movement as long as you are set it up near a rack or something that
Yep.
someone
I was
can
going to say.
balance.
How challenging is it to move around, Scott?
It weighs like 35 pounds, so
Okay. So it's like
nothing.
moving a barbell around.
Yeah, it's super easy. And the like I said, the flywheels are not. They're made of steel, but they're not heavy.
Yep.
They're I don't think they weigh more than a small change plate probably in all.
Mm-hmm.
And then the accessories, the belts or the handle is
Yeah.
it's very light.
Very nominal.
And if you have your own handles of various things,
Yep.
you can use those.
So that's
Those
nice
just
in terms of
attach.
the versatility. You can basically, it's universally kind of done. You just snap something onto the carabiner and you're good to go.
Exactly.
That's really
Yep.
cool.
Yep. Yeah, and they just recommend not using like attaching, say, a barbell as something to grab onto, just because its weight will kind of confound
Oh, yeah.
the process.
Yeah.
But they said, yeah, lots of versatility. It's definitely pretty cool. And do you need it? No, absolutely not. You can get by without it quite easily. But some places I would see it being beneficial is someone with a very small studio. Maybe you train folks out of your garage.
Yep.
Don't have a ton of space. Maybe for a case I could see it being really cool is if you are a sort of a traveling personal trainer. You go to clients' houses, and if anyone's ever done that and you got to lug around stuff, it's a little bit of a pain. This thing said 35 pounds, a couple attachments in the plate. You could put it in a canvas bag very easily and travel, and you have many exercises and all types of resistance right there at your fingertips. So that would be another place. And I think, as we mentioned last week too, also if you train like at a field, you're working with, I don't know, track and field or field sport athletes, and you typically have sessions that are done there. That's very easy to bring it to field or whatever training area.
Maybe even potentiation sets for like sprint intervals, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely some research on that as well, being used in that manner. I know you mentioned there's this ski development team that takes it up and uses it for some work,
Yep.
up on the mountain.
At the very least, even prep work, and like I know like a lot of golfers will jump into like there's a mobile PGA Tour RV that will go from event to event. So a lot of the athletes will take advantage of that because it's just challenging to just all right, here we go. You're going to play golf. It's like, so a lot of them like to do extensive warm up routines, but when you're out at a golf course, it's challenging. So one of the things that they do on the tour is they have a mobile RV that takes them there. But like, other sports like soccer or football and that kind of thing, they're usually coming out of like a locker room. So there's that accessibility there. But like you said, if
Right.
you're out in the middle of nowhere and you need something, that might be a nice tool to be able to use.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I thought of for certain cases taking it to the lot when I ride to use this potentiation or activation, or
Yep.
sometimes I'll just do a small amount of training right at the end of a session. I drive back to the gym because it's close, but
I know.
because it fits in the back seat of the car, so it's
Oh, nice. That's really
super
good.
easy, and just throw it out, knock out a few quick sets to wind down the session, and good to go.
Let me ask you this. What about pressing, Scott? Are there any pressing movements that you can do with it?
So that is going to be a more tricky. There are ways you could absolutely do it. You certainly could use the full harness and do some sorts of resisted push-ups with the thing.
Okay.
Would be something you might be able to figure out. It would take a little bit of work of having something elevated enough to do it on. Parallettes or something, that would be something you could do. The strap does not seem long enough to do any overhead pressing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you did it from a half kneeling, I don't think you could do it that way.
Yep.
So that would be one limitation. The nice thing, of course, as far as traveling and that sort of thing, is pushing is one thing that
It's a little bit
generally easy to do
Yeah.
body weight. Yeah. So this could fill in those higher loaded posterior chain and squatting movements that are a little
Yes.
hard to do unless someone's really good at pistols and things like that.
Yep.
And since pulling is super hard, then it won't do vertical pulling, of course, though the rep from the company talked about there have been people that have figured out how to kind of just attach it overhead somewhat and then use it as a pull down, and that seems to work. But that's that's
Yeah, and again, it fills in the gaps of
involved.
things that you really wouldn't be able to do without your regular body weight stuff. So even if you had like a set of rings or a stud bar, you got pull up variations like that. So it's vertical pulling, but those horizontal aspects of the pulling, and then the posterior chain, and then squatting stuff. Definitely some different things you'd be able to use there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do think as far as rowing, like I mentioned, the drawback of bent row, but you could do a single arm, hand supported on the opposite knee row, take some stress off the posterior chain.
Yeah, I like that.
Potent stimulus. I know I've played around with doing a number of sets of reverse curls, trying to bring up kind of a deficiency I think I have from riding in that area, and I really like how potent and powerful those feel. Much better than using the easy bar or dumbbells.
Yep. Very cool.
And much more overall, just an intense movement. It forces you to recruit your whole body into the movement.
Next week while I'm up there, Scott, I'll have to do a little run through, and you'll have to, show me the ropes, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the other big news that came out recently was the fact that Rogue is stepping up to the table when it comes to, I guess, in the competition field. They are now throwing their hat in. I think they probably did something with CrossFit. Let me just do the announcement here. It says this was on the Rogue Fitness Facebook page as of noon yesterday. Rogue Fitness is proud to announce the Rogue Invitational, a CrossFit Games sanctioned event scheduled to take place at Rogue HQ in Columbus, Ohio, on the weekend of May 18th and 19th in 2019. This unique event will feature first-class competitors from around the world with 20 male and 20 female athletes in singles competition, as well as a team division consisting of 10 squads. Invitees will include the top 10 male and female finishers from the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games, along with the select number of additional athletes from the top ranks of the sport. The final competition spots will be filled via an online qualifier. Details on the individual and team qualifying process will be released at a later date. The Rogue Invitational Championship in the male, female, and team divisions will each secure a spot to compete at the 2019 Reebok CrossFit Games in Madison, Wisconsin. Additionally, every athlete that competes in the Rogue Invitational will take home a cash prize, with the winners of the male and female division taking home $50,000 each. Event wins pay $5,000 prize, and the total prize purse for the three divisions is over $400,000. Well, Scott, Rogue is showing some. They're showing that this is a different story from 10 years ago when people were showing up on a farm in Aromas.
Right.
What are your thoughts, brother?
For free. Well, I know further, as we've spoken about, I think the last couple of weeks, further legitimizing this is a real sport, bringing other entities in, more prize money, definitely clear differentiation of, who is professional basically.
Yep.
And who are the amateurs, which is pretty much how every other sport that's established in the world sort of rolls.
Mm-hmm,
right? You got a lot of people might do it at amateur for fun, and there's a top folks are in a different level and do it professionally, and they can be compensated professionally, so it can be a profession. Right? That's part of the thing that has to happen there. If you can't potentially earn enough to really make it a profession, then you're sort of an amateur, even if you have the talent to make it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't put it. You don't have the ability to put in the time.
One of the things that comes to mind for me, Scott, is what are the events going to look like at this thing? It's a 2-day competition. It seems like it's going to be at Rogue HQ. What kind of things are they going to be doing? Is it going to be similar to something like they do at the games, where it's like the stadium type workouts, where they're all in that like that main venue and they're doing cool little smaller workouts? Are they going to be testing all areas of fitness? So that's something that comes to mind of things to consider, of like what the actual programming and who's doing the programming for this.
Right. Yeah. It's unknown. Will it be like a little mini games, or is it going to be open to stuff off site and around? Who knows? The way this goes back a little bit to, well, we never know what's coming from year to year. I mean, things have been relatively standard for quite a while. But, you and I both go back far enough to remember the Wild West, where every region was different based on who organized it. And they could be wildly different what the workouts were. And with now some of these, at least some of the other things, like say Wodapalooza, right? We have a rough idea because it's been, there's some history there, but something like this, right? Who knows? What do you prepare for necessarily if you're an athlete going into that?
Absolutely. And then even from there, taking it to the next level is what does CrossFit HQ program for the CrossFit Games? Because in the past, usually they're testing something in the open, and then they'll drop whatever things they test in the open and then test more things in the regional, drop those things, and then retesting or test things that are new in the CrossFit Games that you have more versatility and the ability to do, and you don't want to repeat stuff. So now the CrossFit Games, in a way, has opened the door to doing anything now. Because now you can't really guarantee that any one area of fitness is going to be tested within those sanctioned events.
Right, yeah. They may be very different. Like the person who wins, say, the Dubai Championship and gets in that way may have been presented with a whole different type of challenges than someone who wins the Granite Games to get in.
Exactly.
And right, so
like the first event last year at Dubai was like a 5K in the desert. So it's like, all right, well, Annie Thorisdottir is going to be at a disadvantage there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even though I think she actually won last year, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, would it be more different stuff, or will it actually look a little more like regionals in the opens in some ways? Will it go the other direction?
Yeah, good question. And obviously we're going to find out over time, but things to think about, right?
Yeah. And then I imagine because of the elimination rounds, it's going to look different.
Maybe that's going to be like open style almost.
That could be, simpler. I mean, clearly, if with the volume of athletes there's going to be for those, it's going to have to be relatively simple. I can't throw out the really complex stuff, and
and potentially stuff that wouldn't. Well, the other thing is that like anybody who's not qualifying through a qualifier, it seems like you are a second fiddle athlete, or you just had a it's like a Hail Mary. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you won the open and you're in. Yeah, but outside of that person, right?
Yeah. So what I'm referring to mostly are like the country winners.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. So, like you said, I think they're going to be things that are clearly separators. However, they're probably going to be things that aren't necessarily too detrimental to the overall performance of the athletes, but will expose athletes who are not at the requisite for being at the CrossFit Games. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did do like a 2K row for time, or a 100 calorie assault bike for time or something like that. That might be like a standard of what CrossFit Games athletes should be able to do, and would knock out outliers that may or may not be able to do those things.
Yeah, it could be simple and short and hard to say.
Yeah, it really is. You're right. Because then you never know. Maybe those people in those countries won because they're just big, strong people, or they're very good at rowing, or whatever it might be. But that being said, like I guess the open kind of is an all-encompassing test as well. So there's a lot of layers to this, and I think we referred to this last time, was that it's going to take a while for all the kinks to be worked out from this format, because there is so much to unravel here.
Right. Yeah. Biggest change, I guess, since qualifying rounds came into being, really, from the early days, I would say. So, it's going to be a little bit of an unknown, probably for a few years. Biggest unknowns this year, of course, but even going forward, it'll still be a while before people figure out how to best train for it and the best approach trying to qualify. And then, of course, whatever the new format of the games ends up looking like.
Yeah, exactly. And then,
so
again,
I wonder
going
if
back to the drawing board there, too. Go ahead.
Yeah. I wonder if this is more days of competition for those that are elite enough to make it, through the whole weekend.
Yep.
Or the whole week, I guess is a better way.
Yeah.
Is that, additional days yet? Or are the qualifying days going to kind of replace the day where we've seen, all the long stuff and, obstacle courses and criterions and marathon rows and those sorts of things?
Yep.
Or mystery trips to Aromas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. The other thing is that I'm very impressed with Rogue putting up a good amount of prize money for this, and hopefully they're able to. I don't know what the other competitions are doing, but I don't know how they're going to televise this or stream it or something like that. But there has to be some kind of way that they're going to recoup some of the prize money and the cost to actually put this competition on, because it doesn't seem like this invitational is going to have amateur events or amateur classes to offset the cost of the event itself, which is something that a lot of those other events have. But if this is just going to be the best teams and 40 best athletes, someone's going to have to fit the bill, and it seems like Rogue will. However, obviously if Rogue is putting this on, then they're the name in the sport, and that kind of comes back in advertising dollars. But then how are you going to get this out to the people? So it's going to be very interesting how we're actually going to see this unfold and how we're actually going to view it.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to kind of miss watching regionals.
Yeah.
Damn,
that was fun.
Yeah. So hopefully these events will be, I know it won't be standardized probably in quite in the same way, but at least available to watch.
But most likely what they're going to do is they're going to pluck all the people that were at regionals and stuff like that. Wodapalooza takes the guys and gals who do the commentating at regionals, and they use them for their live casts. So, those people won't be out of a job, but it's definitely going to be different, I think.
Right.
So it'll be very interesting how this all unfolds, like I said before. So, Scott, we are going to be heading up to a workshop seminar up in Portland. I'm going to be heading up there next week. This is
going to be here this time.
Yeah, man. We're going to be. I'm going to bring my mic and we'll do a podcast together. But we're going to be doing the Zach Couples Human Matrix seminar. Are you aware of where we're going, Scott? Have you ever been to this?
I haven't been to it, but I can walk there. Oh no, it's a handful of blocks from the gym here. Could walk from here.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
So, have you gotten a chance to look over the course material yet, Scott? He sent that out this week.
Yeah, I'm going to finish through it today. I'm not entirely through it, but I'm through some of it, yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously there's, I appreciate someone sending out course material ahead of time, because then it gives you the ability to kind of know what you're getting yourself into and maybe pre-prepare some questions. And obviously there's going to be a lot of questions that are probably going to be answered there. But just looking at the course material here, Scott, and for those who are unaware, Zach Couples has been in the trenches with the postural restoration and also integrating his own ideas from physical therapy, because he's a physical therapist. And he is, a kind of a fitness guy who's, working one-on-one with athletes and that kind of thing. So, anything
he worked he was the NBA strength coach or PT for a while. I think it was the Grizzlies. Yeah.
Yeah. So he knows his stuff. Did anything pop out to you right away that you might, are thinking about as we go into this, Scott, or things that have been on your mind that someone who's been so, exposed to this might be a better person to give us some guidance with?
I'm not sure if I followed, actually.
Let me give you an example. So for me, one of the things after reading all this is my clientele in my gym. I obviously I'm in South Florida, so let me put an asterisk for this. But we have a large female population that has breast augmentation. So I'm really that would be something I would really like to talk about, and how those that affects the kinematics of ribcage mechanics how we approach an athlete in that way.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that would never occur to me, because we're in Portland, and those are rather rare to see, as long as you're not in strip clubs. And these days I'm never there, so it doesn't even occur to me that people do that.
I know, right?
I don't ever see that problem, but I can see it being a problem. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, good one. Yeah, it's interesting. It looks, it's a lot of breathing mechanics, very similar to the material Mike Robertson presented just a month and a half ago or whenever it was up in Seattle at the Joel Jameson event. But a little more in depth, like full programs, to kind of how he approaches integrating it. And I think this is a piece of it. I think we're looking more at like hip and leg mechanics once we get there. So I feel like this is sort of making sure we have these basics down and understand this, so that then we can delve into this next layer of stuff.
Yeah.
At the seminar is kind of what my sense of it is.
That's a good point. And obviously, it seems like this is going to be fairly hands-on and working through these exercises and that kind of stuff. So another thing that comes to mind for me is, one of the biggest, I think, assessments that or the idea of assessing. So I'm really interested in how because every coach will learn many different types of assessments. I mean, we've gone through the OPEX assessments. There's, imagine Polkwin probably has an assessment as well. You have an FMS moving screen, SFMA moving screen. You've also done the FRC assessment. I imagine you have too as well, Scott, right?
I haven't gone through the FRA, the one
FRA.
that's devoted just to, they do that one rather rarely. And I have not been to that one yet, though certainly in the standard FRC, you are given a lot of tools to kind of know and assess as well.
So taking all these things, it's like, all right, like how does this person assess somebody? And like, what are the biggest things that they look for? And then again, you try it out with your clients and athletes, and then you're like, all right, I like this, I don't like that. Or, is it applicable to my clientele? Because there might be a great assessment. You're like, okay, cool. Like there's all these cool little bells and whistles with this thing, but then you do it and you're like, yeah, this really doesn't really help. Like it's not creating this huge amount of awareness doing this. It's just cool. It's a parlor trick. Whereas there's some things you're like, oh my God, like, wow, this really opens my eyes to certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like a fairly simple assessment process. And I see it has super similarities to the ones that we learned, again, at that Mike Robertson seminar. For all I know, maybe one of the two would influence the other.
Yep.
But this one, like I said, a lot more what to do about it, because we only learned the very beginning.
Yeah. So you're getting deeper into the layers here.
Yeah. And we've been implementing a lot of this, even in the classes.
Cool.
We have everyone now, they know if they're a wide or a narrow
infrasternal angle,
or if they're,
cool.
if they're neutral, and people, that we start off, they break off, they know which drill to do now.
That's great.
So
I got to pick your brain about that, and we'll talk about that next week, Scott, in person, I think. Yeah. Because I think when we are in person, we're going to have a whole lot more topics to talk about, because I got to get my feet in that CrossFit Portland and feel that aura that is about 13 years of CrossFit, 14 years of CrossFit now. What do you got in there?
Getting close on 14, yeah.
That's where I'm landing next week there, guys. But
you'll be in time for our Friday afternoon FRC study and practice session.
Ooh, maybe I'll jump into that, Scott.
You might want to jump into that one. We can do a kind of a...
I would like that, Scott. I would like that a lot. So before we go, our new thing, guys, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, write a review, rate us, and make sure that you're listening. There's some great information here. Scott, you got anything else for today?
That'll do it for today. We'll see you soon.
I'm going to see you soon. And if you need me, I'm at Sean LaFlock at Sean@CrossFitDelray.com.
And if you want to reach out to me, it's Scott@CrossFitPortland.com.
Awesome, Scotty. See you in a week, buddy.
Yep. See you then. Safe travels.
Yeah,
Later.
Thanks.